Prime TV, new media with a difference.
When it comes to choosing the right product for my skin, it's all about the ingredients for me. Niger skincare products are authentic, fresh, and best of all, completely organic. I love the Motherland Moisturizer. It's designed to smooth and soak in the skin without ever feeling greasy, and their Jade Roller has literally become a part of my self-care routine. Visit nigerskincare.com today and receive 20% off your first order. For beautiful skin you were born to love.
Hi guys, my name is Yabo and I am the founder of Masasi B. If you're looking for unique African-inspired clothing and accessories, please check out my brand. All details are at the end of this video. Feel free to get in touch. Thank you.
Feels so soft. Curl pattern has just bounced back. Look at that. Without any product in the hair at all. When you use Sherma Haven's natural hair care product line, your hair flourishes and becomes the main attraction.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show Enough is Enough Esorosoke, sponsored by Better Niger. I'm your host and anchor, Mr. Femi Oke, and welcome to the show dedicated to debate and discussion towards a better Niger for us all. Tonight's show is another interesting one. The question we will ponder: review of President Muhammad Buhari's manifesto promise to fix our economy. Are Nigerians richer or poorer? That's the question we're going to ask today. We have a full house tonight, although some of the guests will have to join us because they're not here right now. But it looks like someone has been trying to sabotage us because we're starting today with England playing Scotland. So, you know, a lot of people must probably watching that. Anyway, with me, we have via StreamYard, Deacon Adoye Obanlewo, a political analyst. Good evening, sir. Are you there? I'm not sure if he's there. We can't see him at the moment. Then we have Mrs. Temitayo Agemo Okuboyejo, petroleum engineer. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm very well, thank you.
You're welcome. We have two other guests. They're not here also. The Dr. Namaka Obiarere and Yusuf Sulaiman Elegwe. But finally, I have another gentleman, Dr. Olufemi Oba Kanwi, mathematician and educationalist. Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers. Thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. So I want to welcome you both to the show. Enough is okay. You can post messages on Facebook and YouTube live via handle of Prime View Television. We should start off by looking at the state of the economy and consider whether President Muhammad Buhari has fulfilled his manifesto promises to fix the economy. If not, why not? And is there still time to make Nigerians collectively richer, with less than 2 years remaining on his tenure? We'll see if we can prefer some solutions, then finish with some current affairs. So if you're ready, let's start the show. So I'll start with this. Without a growing economy, and appropriate government policies and procedures, robust infrastructure to make business thrive, the people will not be able to achieve their aspirations or attain sustained prosperity. In such circumstances, perpetual poverty and misery will consume the land. Some people will say that that is what we are witnessing now. That is something that we must address now. So I'll address the first question to Dr. I'll send it to Temitayo. Okay, is it fair to conclude at the onset of Buhari's government, the economy was on its way down, despite the surface statistics which showed that things were relatively okay, but the underlying factors and the inherited circumstances were unstable? So despite the fact that we were the largest economy in Africa, following the rebasing, things weren't really that good. The inflation was as high as nearly 10%, unemployment was around 10%, youth unemployment was 15% in 2015, whilst poverty was in excess of 90%, 92% by UN standards. In 2015, the government bailed out 27 states as well who couldn't pay their salaries. So things weren't that great. Oil prices have gone down to $10 per barrel. So is it fair to say that President Buhari was dealt a bad set of cards?
Yes. Yeah. So I would say it's fair to say that the government of President Muhammadu Buhari was dealt a bad hand. But I can't necessarily agree that it wasn't obvious, especially for a country whose economy depended on income from oil, petroleum, that is. I would imagine that all of the people behind President Muhammadu Buhari's campaign would at least have some kind of think tank behind him, who I expect, well, in my expectation, would have been looking at oil price and what potentially it could do to the economy. Given that, in general, economies tend to lag. So you would imagine that if something were happening today, you can expect to continue to see the effect of that event for the next 6 to 12 months. So yes, it's fair to say that the Buhari government did inherit an economy that was on its way down. But I'm not sure that I want to necessarily agree that that was a surprise to anyone. So because of that, I would imagine there should have been policies in place to ameliorate the impact of that.
Okay, that's fine. You may have said that, look, on the surface, the figures were showing such great numbers, but it wasn't until he got into government that they really saw what was going on. But let me put this to you, Doctor. Since Buhari has taken over, let's look at the economic indices now. Under President Muhammad Buhari, unemployment has now skyrocketed to 33%. Inflation at a whopping 17.83%. Mass youth unemployment around 55%. We have a growth rate of 0.51%, and 92% are living in poverty on less than $5.50 per day. These are surely disastrous figures, regardless of underlying factors for President Buhari and an APC party elected with a promise to fix the economy as one of its 3-point agendas. What do you say to this?
Excuse me. Please pardon me. It's a season for hay fever, so just pardon me a little bit.
Not the question.
Yes. Now the question. Sincerely speaking, like my fellow panelist said, we can't divulge the facts on the ground from the reality of what we have here. Now, the reality is that there were plans, and the plans were not well thought out. When the campaigns were out, you could see there were lots of things that were talked about, but I think they did not think properly. The government of President Muhammad Buhari did not plan properly for the situation they find themselves, and that is short-sightedness. Like my panelist said that they could have had a think tank. I think sometime before the COVID period, they had an economic board that was led by one doctor, one big-time economist. I can't remember his name now. That they formed economic advisory team that they formed. Mm-hmm. That would have been something that could have started at the beginning of their tenure. They could have an economic advisory team.
You're talking about Bismarck? Are you talking about Bismarck Rwani?
Yeah, Bismarck Rwani. Thank you very much. Bismarck Rwani. They should have had that from the beginning. It's because it seems as if they begin to be a reactionary to economic situation. They should have not been reactionary to economy. They should have been planning ahead to be proactive. So to me, and from what I've seen on the ground, a lot of the actions were a reaction. A lot of the economic actions were a reaction to the current economic situation. So to be fair to Nigerians, to be fair on this matter, the government did not plan properly for the economic realities.
Yeah, the worst thing about it, if we just remember, if we go back and recollect back to 2015, it was a good 6 months before he even brought in his ministers. So, you know, he was already on the back foot. So he was working with just the civil servants, if I recollect. So let me take the next question to you, Temitaya. In spite of being an avid, I'm an avid Buhari supporter, an APC supporter. It would be callous of me not to acknowledge the economic statistics are extremely poor, despite the valid reasons given by government and which doctors said other opponents call them excuses. So to address the situation, government has undertaken several programs to cushion these blows of economic downturn and endemic poverty centered on its national social investment program, which many countries sought to emulate. These programs include the Poverty Alleviation Plan, the Food Freedom Program, Anchor Borrowers Program, Trader Money, Graduate Empowerment Programs, COVID palliatives and interventions. But poverty and extreme poverty, as it were, still remains a constant in Nigeria and Africa at large. What is the solution when government cannot even afford to pay the minimum wage of 30,000 naira?
So to begin with, I think one of the grounds on which I disagree very much with President Muhammad Buhari's government is on the premise of corruption. You know, there's like too much around corruption that you kind of begin to wonder what exactly has been done. I would prefer, and I would like to see more preventative measures. And in terms of preventative measures, I am thinking in terms of, you know, agencies cooperating. I'm thinking in terms of the use of technology to try to, you know, prevent what you would call state theft. And that's me being very polite. I can think of, you know, much worse adjectives I could use. But then at this instance, there is less money coming in, which are still being stolen. But then one of the tenets of President Muhammad Buhari's manifesto campaign was to tackle corruption. So when you then have a situation where you're earning less money and people are still stealing it, like, you know, it's still business as usual, how would you then expect these social programs and what's being put into them to trickle down to, you know, ordinary Nigerians? So take for example, the Anchor Borrowers problem. I mean, the Anchor Borrowers program. I mean, I remember that maybe about a week ago, I read in one newspaper that it had to be paused because of the corruption that has surrounded it. And this is a government that had, you know, one of its major campaign promises, or maybe shall I say, President Muhammad Buhari's main campaign aura was around the man being, you know, above board. I remember that. Yeah,
Mr. Integrity.
Exactly. I was going to say that. So I remember some people even calling him Mr. Integrity. Unfortunately, I can't say for a fact if President Muhammad Buhari's government himself is corrupt. I don't know that, and I cannot, you know, make such assertions. However, his government haven't done anything to stem the amount of state theft. Let me also point to one of the things that you mentioned. Remember the palliatives during COVID, and how we, to all our collective amazement and shock and what have you, and the callousness in terms of this palliatives being kept in storehouses at a time Nigerians, many of whom who are daily income earners, could not go out to go and earn their daily income, and you had palliatives being stored in warehouses, to the point that we even had some politicians, you know, sharing palliatives to just their party members. In fact, I remember one member of House of Assembly in Lagos who had a birthday party and shared COVID palliatives as souvenirs. So it's you know. Anyway, so going back to the point, you know, I was trying to make, in that this is the time where every amount of money that Nigeria earns needs to go to the right places. And when I say needs to go to the right places, it needs to support Nigerians as efficiently and as effectively as possible, especially given the impact of the pandemic on the Nigerian economy and the global economy at large?
Okay, good. Let me just bring this question, and someone in the audience has brought a question, and they've said that they agree with what you're saying, but I want to ask Doctor, this corruption, of course, government tried to say that they're out to end corruption, and Temi Taya is trying to say that she doesn't see any difference. However, when we look at the statistics in terms of recovered funds, in terms of people that have arrested, in terms of people that are being prosecuted, no government previous to this has done anything near that kind of level. So you may well be scratching the surface, but at least they're doing something. So that's something I would want to say. But the question I want to bring to you is that President Buhari has done some other positives. He's pumped vast amounts of money, over hundreds of billions, nearly trillions, into agriculture, resulting in a reduction in rice importation. There's been better accountability and fiscal discipline, like what Taya was saying, even though she might not see it on the ground, but there is actually better accountability. There's fiscal discipline in the budgeting process. You've got the single treasury account. The implementation of the budget of 2020 was 97.7%, whereas in previous years we're barely touching 50% or 60%. That's even if the budget is even passed on time. So things are happening, but they're obviously happening too slow for a country of young people that needs to grow at the pace commensurate with the size of its population. So what must government do to sustain this growth? Because although we've come out of COVID now, and we're growing faster than most analysts expected, but it's obviously not good enough. What can government do to sustain this growth?
Yeah, thank you very much. First, I need to just correct the impression that we Nigerians have that, oh, the government is fighting corruption, therefore corruption will go 100%. No country has a 0% corruption. In the United Kingdom we live in, no country has 0%. All we're doing is fighting it. But I also need to say this something before I go into your question. Is this: Nigerians as a whole, we do not hate corruption. When we are corrupt, we call it connection. When is somebody else, we call it corruption. So it is an endemic situation that we are fighting a national cause. If you begin to look at Buhari fighting it, we are losing a battle. Now, going back to what we need to talk about. Yeah. Now, if you look at the plans and the work the government has put in place, there is something that is working a little bit, although it's a slow process, is the institution of fighting corruption. The institution. Now some people are arrested, put to court. The court will take 8 years to try them. Before you finish trying them, they become governors. They become ministers. They become senators. It took them 8 years. That is not the federal government. That is the judiciary. So you find that
so you mean it's not the executive, it's the judiciary. It's
not the executive, it's the judiciary. And this judiciary, when this government tried to correct the anomalies in the judiciary, as senior advocate of Nigeria went on strike because they were trying to clean the judiciary. You're finding that's what I'm talking about, is the institution. The institution for fighting of corruption is slow. But if you look at some of the things this government has put in place, like the budget, the process of passing budget, the process of reviewing previous budgets, and when there were borrowings, the borrowings are tied to projects, and we are beginning to see projects. And the thing is this: the more the projects are coming up, infrastructural development brings out economic development. There is no way you want to fight corruption, you want to develop a society, and there are no infrastructures. Now, if these are beginning to come into place, if previous government had done half of what this government has done in 6 years, for 16 years, if previous government had done half of this, we would not be doing this. If this previous government have created all this institution and made it strong, we will not be here we were. We're supposed to build on what we have in here. In as much as the government has not done enough, but they have done something that is commensurate. And until we as a Nigerian, as a society, begin to appreciate what government has done, only because we don't turn into politics. Oh, they've not done nothing. They've not done, this government has not done anything. If that's what we step on, after a short while, in 2 years, the Buhari government will go. Buhari will go, Nigeria will remain. But the issues will still continue to go on because we say, oh, they've not done anything. They're not fighting corruption. When a woman steals 40 billion, have 40 billion, what's called? Trinket.
12
and he was a minister.
Okay, let me bring Deacon Adeoye into it. Welcome to the show, Mr. Obanleo, Deacon Obanleo.
Yeah.
Look, you're hearing Doctor there giving what some of you will call excuses for the failure and ineptitude of government to solve the economy. And he's already told you that obviously when you're fighting corruption, we believe in the rule of law. We also believe in separation of powers. So keep talking about government as a single entity, as if it's Buhari that's actually going to take people to court, it's Buhari that's going to judge them, it's Buhari that's going to execute them and imprison them. This is a fallacy. This is not reality. We have separation of powers. And let's go on to the economy, the key question here. With the population growth rates at the rate we are growing and the infrastructure deficit that we have experienced, we need a China-like growth figures, nearly 10%. And a government that enables private sector to thrive as we stand. So this needs to be at all levels, as the impediments to business at all levels are so many. You know, what would the PDP do differently in 2023, since all these negative factors were entrenched and changed, and they've started from, as Doctor was saying, from 16 years ago, and now 16 years of more decadence. So what are they going to do to ease doing business, make things different that wasn't done before?
Right, Femi. Once again, good evening to everybody. Sorry for the short delay in coming to the show. I had some issues with my phone. Femi, I don't like going on and on about past discussions regarding what previous administration did right or what they did not do. Based on what Tunde is saying, okay. Now, Femi, your question now is what will PDP do different? Okay,
that's correct.
If
Exactly.
if we are voted into power in 2023, you see, the truth of the matter is you make an in-depth analysis with the situation of the economy, and let's not put sentiments into it. Let's put aside. Yes, there was massive corruption in that government, but it has even quadrupled with this present dispensation. Okay, you know, there's no denying the fact that we didn't have problems. But what I can say is every government should learn from previous administrations. You know, if you think that you're coming into governance and you can do better, that's the reason why you've asked the people to give you their mandate. They've given this government their mandate for 6 years. So now for PDP to come in 2023 with the precarious situation we're in now, I think it will take a great deal of work. You know, I don't see any measure that is going to really clean up the mess Nigeria is in. Looking at the budget deficits and the fact that you know, the economy has been stagnant for 6 years, nothing is moving. You know, Tunde can come up with so many excuses. You know, we've had this debate over this government is not working. So for PDP to come in now, you know, it will be a huge mountain to climb because the country is in a mess. You know, before you can build a sustainable economy, you have to look at the factors available. You have to look at the issue of insecurity. You have to look at the economy itself. You have to look at the currency, and you have to look at the trade. You know, no country in their right frame of mind will want to trade with Nigeria presently because we don't have a system that is working. And it is not about the previous administration. It's about this government that is not fit for purpose. So, in retrospect to the question that you asked me, Femi, PDP coming into government in 2023 would entail somebody who, you know, would have to look at the balance sheets, look at the state of the economy, and look and in view of that, we'll probably have to, you know, there's what we call fresh impetus. You know, they need to inject fresh impetus into the economy. The economy, they need to, and that would involve, you know, encouraging businesses. Businesses has to keep striving. The level of employment has to be reduced, and you have to encourage foreign trade. You have to encourage foreign trade. When you encourage foreign trade and you partner with them, that will help to boost your economy. Right now, the Nigeria is not generating enough money for us to be able to sustain our economy, and that is a fact. Nigeria is not generating enough funds to sustain our economy, and there is so much waste and there's so much mismanagement of our resources that right now, the situation that we're in now, it is only the grace of God that can bring us out of this situation. If you look at the current rate of exchange now, the naira to the pound and the naira to the dollar, compared to 6 years ago, that speaks volume. So how do you thrive in that kind of a situation? How do you thrive in an economy whereby people do not want to come to Nigeria to do business because of the level of insurgency, the level of insecurity? These are some of the factors that the means and the values a country. And when you are not sure of your investment in a particular country, when you're not sure of your investment, when you're not sure of the security arrangements, it does have a devastating effect on how you want to go about doing your business in a country where nothing is working. And that's the problem. Until we address those issues, and going back to the issue of the legal system, for crying out loud, the legal system is there for a purpose. So if Tunde is now saying that the legal system is corrupt because some people, when they take them to court, it takes 6 or 8 years, I mean, that is no excuse. I'm sorry to say. That is a fundamental problem. You have to go back to the reasons why that has been the problem in the first instance anyway. Who are the people who appoint the judges? Don't they do due diligence on these people? I mean, so why would you use that as an excuse? It's just because, when it comes to dealing with the level of corruption in Nigeria, where there is no sense of retribution. There is no sense of retribution. When you commit a crime and you know that the punishment that will come, for you perpetrating that act of criminality is going to be severe, that will serve as a deterrent. So there's no sense of retribution in Nigeria. And people just believe that they can do what they want.
Can I just add to that? We had a case, a banker was found guilty, I think 2 days ago or yesterday, 25 billion naira fraud from one of the banks, PHP, I think. I don't know which bank it was. But in any case, what was the sentence? 6 years. Do you see what I'm saying, Obanero? 6 years for 25 billion fraud. Okay, and it was a conspiracy with him and his wife and some other people. So what I want to move on to Temitaya. But what I'm just trying to say to you is that there is what I call Judas area, because they've been paid and bought like Judas. The Judas
That's what I'm saying. We don't have a judiciary that is fit for purpose, and that is the problem.
When executive tries to do actions, it will be those opponents of government will say that government is strong-handed and is not allowing separation of powers and allows them to continue. Most of these judges are long-standing judges. They're not there in the last 6 years. So, because you were talking about attributing blame for these judges, a lot of these judges didn't just come in yesterday. They've been there for donkey's years.
Absolutely.
So anyway,
absolutely.
So let me move on to Temitaya. Look, in following up, the question I want to ask to you is this. The poverty rate by global standards refers to the percentage of the population living on less than $5.50 a day. That is equivalent of that is 2,750 naira, which is about nearly $1 million naira a year. So since the 1980s, this rate has been between 92% and 95% of Nigerians below the poverty line. Nigerian governments have historically been oblivious to the masses. How many Nigerians can boast of earning 1 million naira per year? I don't know that many. So it shows that poverty is part of the normal lexicon of our country. It's not something that's new to President Buhari or any government for that matter. How are we going to stop because now we've become the poverty capital of the world. And that's because there are more people that are in poverty in Nigeria than there were in India. What are we going to do with these kind of statistics. It's no wonder that the people are angry and the people are suffering and they're not happy. And on top of that, they've also got insecurity.
Okay. So, you know, I'm one of those people that's always been suspect about the definition of poverty, especially in Nigeria. And the reason for that is this. So it would appear to me that the indices that I use to determine who lives, you know, who is living in poverty and who isn't, especially in emerging economies, doesn't take purchasing power into account. And if you think about it, given the statistics that you yourself just reeled out, it means that, you know, every government worker who earns the minimum wage automatically is living below poverty. Yeah. So what that means, so if you think about it, the minimum wage in Nigeria now is what? 33 or is it 30,000 per month?
Yeah, per month, yeah.
Yes. So at 30,000 naira per month, multiply that by 12, you know, flat. That gives you 360,000 a year. So from the get-go, you have put millions of Nigeria in that basket of living in poverty if we are going to be using the statistics. Well, using the indices that you reeled out.
Can I just bolster your point just to say that the NBS, the National Bureau of Statistics, doesn't use the World Bank statistics or UN statistics. They use a different base, which is 137,430 naira per annum as the minimum. And on that basis, about 40% of Nigerians are in poverty. So go ahead.
Okay. So which then takes me to my next point. And I know, you know, it may seem to people who particularly support President Buhari coming at me for saying I seem to be against his government. If I was President Muhammad Buhari, one of the things I would want to be doing today is to get that definition redone for Nigeria, to stop using statistics that do not, or to stop using metrics that do not apply to Nigeria.
I've just given you the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics.
And I understand that.
Those are the ones that they're using. They're not using the UN one.
I'm saying, what is our economic team doing in terms of engaging the World Bank and the IMF in saying that Nigeria is an emerging economy? Our earnings is not the same as what you are using to determine this poverty, you know, metrics. So it doesn't. So it's basically like, you know, the conventional saying of comparing apples and oranges. So by using those metrics, you have, from the get-go, you've put lots and lots of Nigerians in poverty who are not necessarily living in poverty. So that's number one. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, however, the one statistics of NBS that I can use, which to my mind feels like lots more Nigerians are now living in poverty. If I were to take food inflation, everybody has to eat. You know, and I don't know very much about northern Nigeria, but in southern Nigeria, I don't know any part of southern Nigeria that is not eating gari. Go and check out the price of gari now. That's supposed to be a Nigerian staple. It's the equivalent of potato and bread here in the UK. Everybody is groaning under the price of something as basic as gari. And if I were to then use that to determine the number of people in poverty, it will probably give a more realistic figure. But that figure is likely to be less than the figure that the World Bank is using. I don't know what that number is, but I don't necessarily agree with the World Bank figure of 90, whatever, you know, the percentage. Was it 72% or what it was? So I don't necessarily agree with that. And I feel like our government or the people in the economic team need to be engaging with the World Bank, need to be engaging with the likes of the IMF in using the right metrics to make these sort of definitions and to make this sort of pronouncements. They should include that. So that would be my opinion on that.
Okay, good. I'll come to you, Dr. Kanwe. Look, in Sudan, the former president was ousted due to the price of bread going up. You understand? Former military coupists, you know, dictators who overthrew President Buhari in the when he was General Buhari in the 1985. they said, this is reason why we got rid of him. And they're looking at these statistics and saying they're justified. That's what he would have done in 1985. He's doing it now in 2021. The tag Nigeria has become the poverty capital of the world is hanging like a noose around President Buhari's APC government's neck. As as I said, we've overtaken India numerically with the largest number of people living in extreme poverty. But as I say, it's about 46.4% of the population. But I go on to tell you that historically, Nigeria's had even higher percentage of Nigerians in poverty. So this isn't nothing new. It's not like it's just happening now. This is something that's continuous. What is the challenge that we can do to get ourselves again away from this poverty trap that is engulfing the nation all the time? And as Temitara said, food inflation is skyrocketing largely due to the insecurity. And if we're not careful, if this insecurity is not abated, we could be looking at some famine in some places, because if people aren't going to the farm, we're not going to be able to get the farm products. Imports are skyrocketing because the foreign exchange prices are going. The purchasing power is dwindling. What do you say to this?
Thank you very much. I want to thank James Tayo for something very important. As always, I've always said, there is most of this bourgeoisie, neo-colonialist, economic vagabonds of words does not apply to Nigerian economy. The money that is running in Nigeria economy that does not, this economy does not cover is far beyond that. There was one, I'll just give you an example. There was one time I was in Nigeria for something, and Naira was about 250 to 1. And I went to somebody's house, and I was going to do something for that person in UK. Do you know that man went to his bedroom and brought out £25,000 in cash and gave it to me to do something for him in UK? That is not covered by that economy of Nigeria. There is money in that economy that's not covered by this economic jargon. Now, going back to what you just said, the issue, there is no way that we want to have economic development where there is no security. Vice versa, where there is no security, you cannot have economic development. There is something important that this government has done, but we are not looking at it. The greatest problem to Nigeria today are the governors. I will say it again. The greatest problem to Nigeria today, the greatest apparatus to Nigeria problem today are the governors. Under the Jonathan regime, they held him to ransom until they tried to split, to begin to share economic funds. One. Secondly, they got themselves to a situation where this government, under the restructuring program, under Presidential Order 10, the president signed the autonomy of local government. The governors refused it, did not allow it to work. If there is development at the grassroots, poverty is half solved. Let me give you an example. 35 years ago, I know the chairman of my local government. Today, I don't know. Why? Because the government don't allow it to work. If there is development at the grassroots, there will be local produce, there will be feeding progress, where young people are involved in government. Young people are the ones that goes to that does councillors at local government levels. You have them involved in governance at the grassroots, where the local government begin to do projects at the local group, and therefore insecurity is termed at the grassroots because everybody knows each other. But what do we have? Everybody's clamoring for state police so that they can oppress their opposition party. Now they have their security votes. They are not supporting the police, the state police, that now under they have the 500 million security votes. They are not supporting that. So until we begin to focus on the grassroots development, in those days where local governments and local institutions begin to develop and grow things at their local government, where protections is given to farmers at the local group and begin to grow. This government has done some, but the thing is the state governors who have become emperors who don't allow it to work. They've cornered the House of Assembly, they've cornered the local government, they are now squeezing the federal government, but nobody is checking the governors. Who is checking the governors? Nobody. So they become emperors. So until they are put in check, there will be insecurity. They are not accountable to anybody. They are not accountable to nobody. and they have so much at their beckon. So when there is a local development, grassroots growing, like my sister said, said in there, where there is food poverty, what are the governors who owns the land, the land in the state? The national constitution vested the powers of the ownership of the land to the governors. What are they doing? Nothing.
Yeah, can I just bolster your point? For example, we're from Ogun State, and I want to invest in Ogun State. They want to give me 10 hectares of land. The government is 4 years plus now, and I'm still waiting for the government to give me the allocation. So, and as you said, the land is vested in the government, vested in the governor, vested in the state. But for them to deal with the local communities and give the land to investors like myself, we're still waiting after 4.5 years. I want to bring the next question to, let me bring it because of time, and we're going to keep moving the thing on. Mr. Banlu Deacon, our population that ought to be our trump card is now an albatross around our neck. The Nigerian Bureau of Statistics showed government has created 10 million jobs, in 2020, over 2020, whilst the World Bank report shows 7 million have fallen into poverty. That is still a net increase of 3 million people. Although, as Temitayo said now, we need to look at those figures subjectively. There may also be an anomaly of people working, but also being on poverty wages. Even in the UK, we have people working, many on 0-hour contracts, not earning a living wage. So celebrating, what I want to speak to now is the opposition celebrating government's poor performance, saying that, look, government's messing up, hooray, it looks like we're going to be in 2020. It is in no one's interest for us to be in a bad economy, is it? And fixing the economy should not be a partisan matter. And to avoid a worse situation in 23, I would expect PDP and opposition to be presenting practical solutions to fixing the economy. They say that Buhari and APC has messed up. Today, I've still not heard any practical solutions beyond fixing the security, beyond clear corruption. What practical steps I want to hear from the opposition that can tell us to say that, yes, if we do X, Y, and Z, these are going to fix the economy. We're going to get into the solutions later, but I can tell you now that those solutions are going to be less palatable. They're going to create more pain before they're going to get any gain. What do you say to that? That the PDP and the opposition elements are not creating any solutions. They're not presenting them in the House of Reps or the Senate. They're not saying them on the media. What are the solutions? Because 2023 is around the corner.
Yeah. Femi, in as much as I know that the question you just asked me is a very important and a very cogent one. You see, I think I will be in a dilemma to give you a response which is inadequate or inaccurate. Reason being is because even though I can apportion quite a lot of blame to the present dispensation now for the level of indiscipline that has actually gone on in the administration, but taking a dim view back at the state of affairs within the PDP hierarchy now, the reason why everything is stalemate and the opposition is not seem to be doing much is because they themselves don't even know what they're doing. Majority of the members that we have in the House of Reps and the Senate, when they go to the chambers to put some issues across to the government in respect of certain things that have actually gone wrong, you see, there's no substance. And when you really look at the whole structure of the party itself, the whole party needs complete overhauling. It's always one. I take for instance in Cross River State, the governor has just jumped. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ayede, Governor Ayede.
Yeah. The governor has just jumped from PDP to APC for reasons best known to him. So we don't have a disciplined opposition party that could hold the government to account. And until when the party is actually showing seriousness by presenting a responsible and a well-known. We don't need anybody that has actually served in government before. We don't need spent forces. We need people who will be able to stand the test of time. People who will understand the plights of Nigerians. People who will understand and empathize with them. People who will understand their plight. We need somebody who will come out, robustly and say, look, Nigeria, I represent a political party that has performed below par, in the past. Yes, we've had our mistakes, but now you have a party that has even performed worse. Now before we can begin to smoothen the economy and make sure that things go back to normal, then we need but I can't see anybody right now, who I can honestly say, that this is the kind of person that I feel, is fit for purpose and will be in a position to move Nigeria. Because looking back at the hierarchy in PDP now, with all the in-house problems, right from the federal level to look at take for instance Ogun State. Look, when Buruju passed away, what has been the state of PDP in Ogun State? PDP is more or less dead in Ogun State. So we don't have an opposition in Nigeria that is super popular. The only active governor that I know in Southwest who is making waves now is Seyi Makinde, who is striving and aspiring to do the best. That look, when people begin to see the quality of input and what I'm doing in our state, that would spur other states and other aspirants to be able to say, okay, look, this is a vibrant young governor in our states, doing this, doing that. Now, and to concur with what Tunde said earlier, most of the governors in Nigeria, I agree comprehensively with what Tunde said, that they seem to be the problems. Because I've already said before in most of our programs, that for Nigeria's economy to strive, we need to encourage devolution of power within the local government. When you encourage devolution of power and the local government is flourishing, then that will be the right step in reviving the economy. But right now, as a formidable opposition party, I think PDP is found wanting. And I can't honestly say to you, Femi, this is the future of this party with this present crop of people that we have here at our disposal.
I appreciate that statement, and I'll just go on to say you talked about local government, and as we always find, whenever there's local governments, and there was local government elections in Oyo, and guess what? 100% of the seats went to who? PDP. So I don't say anything more on that. Temitaya, look, Nigeria is essentially a poor country masquerading as a wealthy country. It offers great business opportunities, but also very challenging. We have a large population, but nearly half of the population is poor. And a large percentage of the population is also illiterate and low education with low purchasing power. Where is the glamour and the lustre? Has Nigeria lost its lustre? How can it regain its lustre?
So it's hard to say, but I'll have to say, in my opinion, the only thing that can bring Nigeria out of its current problems is patriotism. We just need to be more patriotic. We need to love our country, and we need to really be seeking to see our country prosper. Nobody is going to come to Nigeria to develop Nigeria for us. Nobody is going to invest in Nigeria if we Nigerians aren't investing in our country. Nobody is going to help us overcome the challenges if we are not looking at solutions by ourselves, within us, to overcome these challenges. Let me put it this way. So I'm a Nigerian, I live in the UK, but I'm very, very connected to Nigeria. And to a very large extent, in my opinion, I think I understand a lot of the challenges of Nigeria. It is from that understanding that I'm meant to be helping to develop and proffer solutions to those challenges. And I will only be doing that if I am interested, if I am patriotic, if I love my country and I want to see my country do well. We have to lead. So on that point, let me now take you to some of our millionaires, or some of the people who steal money in Nigeria. And it would be nice for some of the state thieves to invest this money in Nigeria rather than, the usual, cash flight that you see where everything just disappear into European and American, and in recent times into Dubai banks. And these are some of the other areas. And I'm glad to see that the EFCC is now beginning to look into that area where they're now beginning to collaborate with banks abroad. Well, I would like to see more of that, where they do that to kind of stem the cash flight. I mean, if you think about it, if you have nowhere to take these funds other than to invest it in the Nigerian economy, it's only going to go so far to help in terms of, getting young people employed. That's number one. And then number two, I think in a separate conversation that you and I have had, you were saying something about the ease of doing business and some of the needed infrastructure to encourage diasporans to invest in Nigeria. I think the diasporans, as it is, doesn't have enough motivation. So, many of us, you send home money to relatives and what have you. That can only go so far. You're sending money that people are going to use to pay school fees, maybe eat, and that's about it. In terms of real money, in terms of like people deciding that, okay, I'm retiring, I'm going to sell off my house, and I'm off to Nigeria to go and start a new life. I'm going to build whatever and do it. There isn't enough impetus being given to us to do that. And those are all the areas where we can see our economy grow. If you kind of go back and look at the history of even some of the countries that we envy, let me use the United States, for example. And you think about some of the innovators in the United States. Many of the infrastructure that were developed that the United States used today were developed by businessmen. Electricity went around the United States because of two men. Yeah. And those two men were actually looking at making money, and they invested their money within the United States.
Not
and
government.
Electricity became, a household utility to everyone. You can say the same thing about railway. You can say the same thing about the use of cars. Henry Ford was very instrumental to the use of automobiles in the USA. So if you begin to think about things like that, and I don't like the idea of, putting everything at the feet of government, but I think they can do more in terms of encouraging and maybe motivating, especially the slipping cash in the hands of the Nigerian diaspora that can do so much to help to lift Nigeria out of, some of the unusually and shockingly poverty states of certain sectors. So I guess in a nutshell, for me, the only way Nigeria is going to develop, the only way Nigeria is going to get out of this situation is for us as individuals to take it upon ourselves to know that we want to see Nigeria prosper, and we want to see our nation become a nation to be proud of in a committee of nations. Not that we're not proud now, but we'd like to be prouder. And we need to be taking steps. We need to be making decisions that ensure and allows that to happen.
Okay, just to boss to your point, the diasporans have got access to low interest rate funding. I mean, a typical person in the UK owns a property, can easily get £50,000 added to their mortgage and equity and release. And what will 50,000 do in Nigeria? So we're talking about a prospect of hundreds of billions of dollars, possibly. You think about all the people in the UK, them in America, France, Australia, wherever, all keying into the equity in their properties and then bringing that into Nigeria. But they're not going to do that because the system is so challenging and so difficult, and government has not got any vehicle to make that happen. As it stands, Nigerian Diaspora Commission and the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, all of these, even the Nigerian External Affairs, they're just talking shops. There's no portal, no physical thing that's going to say that, look, I'm a Nigerian, I've got money here, I want to invest it in small and medium enterprises in Nigeria. How can you facilitate that to make it happen seamlessly, and that I'm going to be protected and it's going to go to where it needs to go? Nothing exists. and it's 6 years of APC government, and I'm loath to say that it's a ridiculousness that it's not happened. But let me bring the next question to you, Doctor. And this question will be right up your street, because we had this debate with Dr. Inamaka, and unfortunately he's not here today. Should Nigerians not be concerned that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has been making zero remittances to the Federation account, especially with massive refined imports to meet an estimated 93 million litres demand per day? That 93 million litres works out to 585,000 barrels of refined products being imported daily at a price of not less than $100 per barrel. That's the price of the landing price of refined products. Whilst at the same time, we are only exporting 1.3 million barrels a day at current price of 72 barrels per day, which government earns a fraction of that in royalties and taxes. Maintaining this subsidy and maintaining, this situation is unsustainable. It's no wonder. And if you look at the statistics, I had a lot of statistics for us, you will see that government revenues now are largely coming from non-oil sectors. What do you say to this now?
Sincerely speaking, NNPC is not fit for purpose.
Oh, thank you, sir.
NNPC is not fit for purpose. It is an outdated organization. It's a bourgeoisie organization used for stealing money. And I know my only consolation is this. It might not sound very well to everybody. The only consolation is Dangote Petroleum. By the time Dangote Oil starts producing PMS, I want to know what NNPC will be doing, what their job will be doing. It's all about putting some people with huge amount of responsibility, resources, and all this stuff. And it's always been like that. Previous governments have always put their stooge in there. When it was Obasanjo's government, they put the stooge there. They were stealing, and the likes of Dakoru and all others were there when under Jonathan. Everybody put their own people in there to eat. It is the cash cow of Nigeria. But in reality, like my sister said, Chimtara said something about real investment in Nigeria. Real investment in Nigeria. The greatest investment we can have in Nigeria is patriotism. I think I discussed that with you sometimes. I have a Ghanaian friend. We went for a conference, and he said in there, and he said he has never. He went to Nigeria for the first time. He said he has never seen people as strange as Nigerians. That Nigerians are the only people that run their country down. Is that he knows that they have issues in their own countries. Everybody have issues in their own country, but Nigerians deliberately run their country down. That he cannot imagine the volume of opportunities that's in Nigeria compared to Ghana, and the way we run our people down, our country down. That you see foreigners loading themselves in planes all the way to Nigeria to go and do business, but we Nigerians run ourselves down and we run away from it. And I said that because the system does not encourage that. Look at the remittance from the diaspora. And NNPC as an organization does not see anything in the need that they are not producing, they are not remitting anything. All they do is take and take and take. So when we talk about when people like DOE talk about the government is not fit for purpose, so that's the area they look at, and they say the corruption is quadruple. It has always been like that. That has always been like that in all governments. NNPC has always been like that. The only difference in this case was that because the usual subsidy thing had been somewhat streamlined to what they had before. That was why it became so obvious. But in reality, situations like this should have been dealt with by this government. It says, oh, we are fighting corruption. And obvious situations like this should have been dealt with. If you are not producing, then dissolve the board. I know the satellite, recently I heard the interview from the MD of one satellite organization that was saying that this Nigerian satellite had expired 7 years ago. And you are still the MD. MD of what? MD doing what? Your satellite, Nigeria satellite as expired 7 years ago, is hanging there on a thread, and you are MD of doing what? So these are the things we're talking about. When we're talking about development, let it be tangible. Let it be tangible. Let us see what you are talking about. If you are fighting situations like this, let it be tangible. If we are fighting corruption, let it be tangible. Let us see this that is being done. If you're talking about NNPC, if NNPC is not streamline the management, don't let us just begin to deceive ourselves. But reality is we can do better than what we're doing now.
Okay, it looks like Dr. Enemaka is here with us, so I want to follow up on that question. Thank you for joining us. Doctor, I was just bringing, in our last program, when you were with us, you talked about the 93 million litres of petroleum being imported into Nigeria as being scandalous and also being an avenue for fraud and corruption. Now, oil and gas are only 9.5% of our national GDP, but it contributes 90% of government foreign exchange earnings. Although in the last 2 months, as I said, NNPC has hardly made any contributions to the FARC. So how can government continue with the subsidies or try to end subsidies while still helping the poor? Because the problem they're saying is we can't end subsidies unless we can help the poor. But how does it crack that nut?
Femi, you know, sometimes we blame the government for problems we created for ourselves. Let us tell ourselves the truth. You know, in this particular case, I do not blame the Buhari government. I'm a very pragmatic person. This Buhari government, since 2015, I've always wanted to deregulate this market. But Nigerian Labour Congress and those who desire to continue to create problems for Nigeria have refused to see reason. Femi, based on DPR's record, Nigeria consumes about 38 million liters of PMS. Based on the consumption of the 6 neighboring countries in West Africa, 17 million liters a day. If you add it, it cannot even be up to 57 million, talk less of 93 million. But the NNPC hands are tied. Let me tell you why it is tied. You know, we keep on deceiving ourselves and we say the poor. The extreme poor Nigerians do not even have enough money to eat, not talk about buying fuel. I'll give you an example in Lagos State. Out of the 11.8 million cars registered in Nigeria, 5 million of them are in Lagos State, half of the population. Out of the 5 million registered cars in Lagos State, go to Lagos State to go and check. Only 200,000 are commercial vehicles. 4.8 million are private vehicles. I, for example, have about 4 vehicles parked in my house. And there are many people like that. And out of these 200,000 commercial vehicles, most of them use diesel, which is fully deregulated. The extreme poor in the 19 states of the north do not use PMS. NLC has been our major problem. TUC, their number 2 partner. They are the ones who run the refineries, who have refused to allow refineries to work. Let us be honest with ourselves. The poor will not be affected. What will happen when we fully deregulate that market? The 150 billion naira that is wasted every month on subsidy will be ploughed back into the financial accounts. The state governments can provide palliatives for their poor citizens. And the central government of Nigeria can provide modalities through which they can continue to. Let me tell you, as long as we refuse to deregulate, NNPC hands are tied. As I bet you, they will import. And when they will import, whether it is ghost import or real import, as long as we have refused, NLC, TUC, the governors and those who govern Nigeria, there's nothing anybody can do. I tell you the truth. The poor will benefit more when we fully deregulate this market. This is not Buhari's problem. It's our problem.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more, Doctor. So let me take the next question to Mr. Deacon Obanlewo. Look, how will Nigeria be able to take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Zone when it is yet to prepare adequately for the ACFTA? is inefficient, it closes its borders, and it adopts inherently protectionist policies. And it's not really open for business. We don't even have adequate infrastructure, which is essential for the growth, for economic growth, and to take advantage of this single trade area. So under 16 years of PDP, our infrastructure deficit just widened, despite the average oil price of that dispensation being around $100 per barrel. This new government has constructed standard gauge railways with Chinese loans, largely criticized by some feckless Nigerians. This is where Buhari would leave his largest footprint, in building roads, bridges, rails, airports, the second Niger bridge, and so on, all to be delivered before the administration exits. We have been bedeviled with an infrastructure deficit. I ask again, that's because I'm saying it because of PDP. I'm saying it because not just for PDP, but Nigerians in general. They want to know the solutions. The deficit, even though people can say that Buhari is doing so well in infrastructure, but the deficit, it keeps on getting wider because we're not spending enough. Government seems to be wanting to do everything itself and is getting loans. The private sector are just not engaged. What can we do to get the private sector engaged in, developing our infrastructure and bridging this gap?
Femi, I appreciate that question, and thank you so much. You see, the problem we have in Nigeria is because just like Doctor said earlier, we have not been factual with ourselves, and we do not believe in a symbiotic relationship. And when I say symbiotic relationship, I mean a relationship whereby both the leadership and the followership are benefiting from each other. It has to be, a mutual and consensual relationship for everything to be in place. Now, the only thing that I think is affecting the private sector is because they don't feel confident in the way the economy is being managed. So people are not. I mean, take for instance, in this country, you have the Richard Bransons, you have the Alan Sugars and all that, who are investing in different sectors. You have Richard Branson in more or less everything. Aviation. He's in. He's an entrepreneur who's multi-skilled and multi-talented. Same thing with Alan Sugar, with IT and so many brands. But until you have an economy that you feel comfortable with, that you know that your investment is secure, that you know your investment is safe, then you can partner with the government. But when you have an economy that you keep borrowing, and when you keep borrowing, most of this borrowing is not actually going, is not clearly visible into this so-called project that you're doing. You see, you are incurring so much cost, going about infrastructure, transportation, and all that. But at the end of the day, the vast amount of money that you are borrowing, there is no contingency plans in place to make sure that, okay, this infrastructure that you have in place, here is what you have coming in as revenue that can take care of these loans. Now, how do you take care of these loans? One, that should be the first question. Two, when you have a plan to take care of these loans, how do you begin to generate income from these infrastructures? As you said, most of the in terms of bilateral trade between the neighboring West African countries is more or less dead because the borders, as you speak, are closed for business. So how do you increase the amount of revenue that you generate? Because as you and I know, Nigeria is not generating the only sort of revenue that we rely on is petrol. And now that is dwindling, we have to look at other avenues and other areas in which we can begin to generate revenue. And that is, bringing so many private people into business who will come and partner with the government. The government cannot do, as you said, Femi, the government cannot do everything, on their own accord. It has to be a symbiotic relationship whereby people will come with enormous resources and partner with the government and look at, especially in the area of IT, transportation, and other visible and viable projects that can kickstart the economy. Because when you kickstart the economy and you invest in these areas, especially even in the housing sector, build a lot of properties as well. Property investment in Nigeria is everybody needs a roof over their heads. Everybody needs to be encouraged to go into the housing market. Now, when you look at this this particular area and you build on that, it will encourage other people to go into that area of investment. When they look at Dubai, most of the investments in Dubai now, and they look at all this skyscraper buildings that they're building in Dubai, and this is bringing in a lot of money for this through private partnership. And when you encourage that, people will look at the economy, and when the economy begins to stabilize, people will be encouraged with adequate security to come into your country to say, look, if there's adequate security, there's an incentive for them to invest, because they know that their investment is secure. They know that when they trade, the reason why Nigerians don't want to trade with Nigerians is because nobody trusts each other in Nigeria, and that is why an average Nigerian, would rather trade with a foreign partner than their own Nigeria. Because when you have a small business in Nigeria, if you put your own people there, they want to run it down. You are not assured that your business is going to flourish, because people want to make sure that they earn more than the initial owner of the business. And that is the problems that we have. When people are discouraged because of the laxity in the system, because of the poor mismanagement of in the way in which we handle our resources and issues, then it becomes a major problem. People begin to get discouraged. Nobody wants to invest in a country where there is so much corruption, where there's so much mismanagement, where there's no trust.
Okay.
And as I said, a symbiotic relationship whereby you and I can come together, knowing fully well that we have a common cause to build. And just like my sister said earlier, Nigerians are our own enemies. The moment we begin to trust ourselves and believe in ourselves more, the better it is. Then we can begin to build a sustainable country that is fit for 21st century. I think that's the only way forward. You see, and that's the only way we can encourage. Dangote cannot do it. Dangote cannot do it alone. Femi Otedola cannot do it. There are so many entrepreneurs in Nigeria who have vast amounts of money that they can invest in.
Let me bring Temitara just for time. Let me bring Temitara. Temitara, look, the government has created what it calls an infrastructure fund. It's set up a multi-billion naira infrastructure company. It's looking at concessioning 12 roads. It says it's going to privatize transmission. They're trying to do a few things at the moment. They're looking at privatizing some airports as well. There's so many things to do in terms of solutions, but the people are groaning under the pressure of the economy, as it were. So let me just give you another example of an infrastructure which government was doing, but getting condemnation from the opposition, as it were. Government is building a railway line to Niger Republic, which has oil and gas, which they say, government says that we're going to take advantage of that so that Niger can export through Nigeria, as opposed to exporting through Cotonou or through Douala. But people are condemning government for that, and they're not looking at the long-term implications and the intra-African trade. They're comparing it to, why should he be investing in Niger? Is it because they're Fulanis? Why isn't he doing the railway line to Benin Republic or to Cameroon? Forgetting that Niger is landlocked, Cameroon is not. Benin Republic is not landlocked, and they also have access to the ports. So these are some steps that government are doing to try and ginger up the economy. But especially when you're talking about building the economy, these are going to take time. They're not things that you can just do overnight or is going to happen next month. What do you say to these infrastructure developments, and what can the government do in terms of engaging not just foreign, local, and international investors and diasporans into keying into building our infrastructure?
Okay, so my first inclination is going to be a very unpopular opinion. Honestly, if it's possible for Nigeria to concession all roads across Nigeria, let's do it. As long as we are going to have good roads that saves people time and money. Because, so let me put it this way. So for example, I am from Adodota, and the road to my hometown, it's like one of the worst you could be on. And if the government, if the government of Ogun State were to say that, oh, we're going to build this road within the next 6 months, but we're going to concession it, I can imagine half of the people in my hometown will come out with placards, you know, like, oh, why are they concessioning this road? Forgetting that at the moment, they're losing time. Ideally, from the center of Ota to Igbesa, really on a good road, should take you, give or take, half an hour if the road was smooth and there's no traffic. But at the moment, it would take you 3 hours or thereabouts. It means if I want to go there and come back the same day, rather than spend an hour on the road, I'm going to end up spending 6 hours on the road. That additional 5 hours is productive time that I could use doing something else. And that 5 hours, trust me, is worth more than 100 naira or 200 naira that I'm going to pay as toll. That's number one. Number two, then think about the damage to my car. So I may not be paying toll to a company, a concession company. I'm going to get back home and have to go and spend the odd 3,000 or 4,000 naira to repair something in my car. And imagine if I had to do that, say, every day or 3 times a week or once a week. So for me as an individual or as a citizen, looking at the opportunity cost alone, I am better off under a concession. So that's on road. Now take that on to other infrastructures. So I believe very much in capitalism with some regulation, because I don't believe that there is perfection anywhere. I would very much prefer for Nigeria to decide what kind of economic model exactly we want to follow. Because 1 minute we seem to be doing all these socialist things, but then we want the kind of money that comes from capitalist economies. And you kind of get confused, like, what exactly are we doing? Where exactly do we sit in this spectrum of, economic models? What do we want to do? So take, for example, one of the examples you just said there. So people are talking about, the train from Maradi into Nigeria. As you rightly mentioned, Nigeria is landlocked. This is an economic opportunity for Nigeria. It essentially means Nigeria is providing access to the coast for Nigeria. So it means money for us. So in fact, invariably, it means that for every time Nigeria is exporting something to wherever, Nigeria gets a cut. You can't say the same for Cameroon or Benin, who are coastal nations. In fact, I don't have any statistics to back this up, but my immediate instinct is that the inflows from Benin is higher than the outflows, in that, the Beninois do a lot of business in Nigeria through selling things to us versus the other way, us selling to them. And if they're selling to us, they're making money from us. So why should we go and develop an infrastructure to another country who are essentially, in terms of, trade balances, we probably have a trade deficit with them? And these are the kind of areas where, in my opinion, Buhari's government and spokespersons do a terrible job in terms of educating people about these things. And I realize that there are other fundamental issues around that, in terms of people tend to ethnicize everything. But then the government itself and their spokespersons aren't doing a good job in terms of actually coming down to people's levels and explaining these things and what it means to Nigerians and to the Nigerian economy. So for me, everything that can be done to deregulate the infrastructure to develop infrastructure in Nigeria, as long as there's some regulation behind it, where we don't then have cowboys who just come in and take our money, I'm all for it. And I'll finish with one last example. I work in the energy industry. I worked for a good while in electricity. In fact, before electricity in the UK could become efficient in terms of distribution and transmission, it wasn't until it was privatized in the 1990s. Before that, when you've got British Gas, Scottish Gas, what have you, all these companies owned by the government, it was very inefficient. But right now, as you sit here, I mean, you and I are here in the UK, you could choose your own utility provider. I mean, you could sit in your own house, people are calling you to tell you to move away from British Gas to Scottish Gas or to wherever, because everybody is following the money. It's all about price. You know, so please, by all means, go on, deregulate this thing and encourage private investors, and let us all as individuals follow the price, and the government will benefit out of it, because it essentially means increased taxation for the Nigerian government. So this is where I'm at on that.
I support you in all what you said there, and the fact of the matter is that we have deregulation at the moment, but all we have is glorified monopolies, because all those distribution companies are monopolies. They're not in any kind of competition. So how do you have deregulation when everybody is actually a monopoly? The generators are the monopolies, the distributors are monopolies, and of course the transmission company of Nigeria is another monopoly. Until we have a proper deregulation, we have proper competition where I can choose to go to Ikorodu distribution or Eco distribution or Ibadan right from Lagos. I don't have to choose one that's not even doing its job right. But anyway, let me move the question and I'll come back to you, Doctor, shortly, because I can see you nodding and enjoying. And just as a follow-up on this one for Dr. Kanri, is Nigeria a capital economy or a command economy where government seeks to control the means of production? Is it not time for government to devolve the exclusive list to states and local governments and communities and private individuals to develop the resources in their own land? In Akwa Ibom, we now have BUHARI'S, whilst we still have no national carrier. But should a national carrier be state-owned? British Airways is not state-owned. These are part of the problems that are bedeviling our nation. Why must government want to own everything and control everything? And I think it's the government is stifling the private sector from succeeding, because the SMEs and the private sector coming together are the ones that are going to grow the economy, not the government. Because actually, when you look at our GDP, the government as a percentage of GDP is quite minimal. I don't even think it's up to 40%. So it really means that government needs to push the private sector to deliver the goods that they need. And that's going to create jobs. That's going to improve the GDP. Are we in a state where we want to be government owned, as Tyre said, or do we want privatization? We want mixed. And, you know, we've also got these unions that are strangulating the economy as well. And I see the unions as, they're just selfish. They're only about their selfish interests. They're not about the Nigerian people. Because if they're about the Nigerian people, they wouldn't be strangulating the economy as it is. Doctor, speak to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Most of the unionists, most of the union organizations, they are Shylocks. They are after something or the other. Like Simla was saying, and like the question you asked, Nigeria is more like a command economy. But unfortunately, the little privatization that has been done had been done in shambles, like energy one. Look at the way it's been done. It's been done in shambles, but it is possible for it to happen well. Look at the telecommunications. Before then, I remember when we were young, when my wife first moved here and I was in Nigeria, for you to make a phone call in the 90s, you will have to go to Nitel to go and beg them. You even have to help them to carry their ladder to your house to come and fix your line. You beg them, you carry them with their ladder, you even buy beer for them. Who cares what Nitel is?
You try for hours. You try for hours before you get through.
Yes. They fix it in the morning, in the afternoon is gone, the line is gone again. But who cares? Where are they now? Dead, moribund. Because investment, foreign investment comes into it. But what happened was that when they tried to do that in electricity, instead of having foreign investors, Nigerians, because they saw the electricity telecommunication investors, out of their Shylock attitude, they scrambled for it, they got it, and they refused to invest in it. I remember that MTN and others invested massively in infrastructure in Nigeria then for them to reap billions they reaped. But electricity investors in Nigeria don't want to invest anything, they want to make money. So the problem now lies with, one, the private investors who want to come in there are not ready to invest, they want to exploit Nigerians. Nigeria needs to invest in infrastructure to make things work. Secondly, Nigeria, as a people, we are so poor in thinking beyond what we can earn. Like Titila said something, if you want to concession a road, they will block you from doing it. I remember there was Gufanti had to cry out that when they started building the second Niger bridge, the local community stopped them from working. They said they didn't give them money they didn't pay them for community fund. They didn't pay them. They stopped the construction. That is what we do. So most people that you think are suffering because there are no infrastructure, they are also doing themselves evil. Look at the issue. I have a property around what's called Lekki Expressway. Until when that road was constructed, it will take you hours on end to fly that road. When the concession is and it was open, it opened up that place. Until we begin to do that, and we need to ready to pay, and we need to pay taxes. Many of us don't pay taxes. We don't want to pay for anything. Everything must come from government. We don't want to do anything. Everything is government. To go to toilet, government. To go to bathroom, government. To do this, government. To do this, government. A government must do everything. Pay taxes, I'm not going to pay.
Not just like government.
But Dr. Ndemeka said in there about the issue of subsidy. Until we remove subsidy in Nigeria, it is banditry. It is suit and tie banditry. Until we remove subsidy, how many cars do we have on the road? Those who have generators can afford petrol or diesel in that. If they can't afford it, let us all stay in that place. They don't. They are the ones behind it, and they make money from it. They make money for the generator. They make money. So it's the poor man. They're using the poor man's name to blackmail government, and those in government use that to enrich themselves. So it's a cycle of evil. And the common man too are also part of the system. They don't want to do anything. And no, Baba say lazy youth, lazy Nigerians. A lot of lazy Nigerians. Okay. Nobody wants to pay for anything. Let me bring Doctor in because he's only had like 2 questions, I think, so far. Doctor, look, you're hearing this now. We would love you to be in earlier to hear your economist view, but I'll take you to this now. Foreign direct investment has been falling throughout this administration, despite its numerous efforts to improve ease of doing business. Is that because of the presidency and the administration, or are there other external factors that government can do to change this trend? And follow-up of that, we have multiple exchange rates also. These do not encourage foreign direct investment, as investors remain wary as to what will be the true value of their investments and profits. Many are hanging tight, even the diaspora. They are maintaining a wait-and-see approach. What can government do to reverse this trend? Is having multiple exchange rates good for Nigeria? And even government trying to control the exchange rate.
The last time we had this meeting, this discussion, we ended up blaming the federal government and then not looking at the local government and the state government. I'm so impressed with Dr. Lufemi and Madam Temitayo. In fact, they captured my thoughts. You see, Nigeria is a country with so much potential, but we are our worst enemies. I say to everybody who cares to listen, the aspiring looters are more than the looters in government. Those outside are worse than those in government. Let me explain to you. You stay in the United Kingdom. Yeah. United Kingdom has a landmass of 243,000 square kilometers, which is 1/4 of Nigerian landmass. The United Kingdom has over 16,000 square kilometers of rail line. As efficient as the UK public sector is, yet they privatized and commercialized their rail system since 1993. Nigeria, with a land mass of 923,000 square kilometers, can easily, within the next 10 years, build rail infrastructure of about 12,000 kilometers. But it cannot come through fiscal revenue. Femi, Nigeria is resource poor. Even if we sell crude oil and apply all the crude oil revenue without paying salaries of civil servants to do rail, we can't even scratch the surface. To do 12,000 kilometer rail line, which is scratching the surface, will take us about $52 billion. Femi, that money can actually come through foreign direct investment if we are very honest and sincere to allow the private sector to drive it. The governors are lazy. The worst set of human beings we have in Nigeria, no, it's not the federal government. Femi, let me give you a typical example. The most lucrative route in Nigeria today, which we can concession, one of the best global infrastructure partners in Nigeria is a Yoruba man, Bayo Ogunlesi.
Yes.
Bayo Ogunlesi has 3 airports globally that is managing. We have a lot of Nigerians who can actually drive this if the governors are ready. Let me give you an example. From Port Harcourt to Owerri, to Aba, to Onitsha, to Asaba, to Benin, to Ore, to Ijebu-Ode, to Shagamu, to Lagos, to Cotonou, to Port Novo, to Lome, to Togo. It's a rail route that can unlock over $10 billion into Nigeria on an annual basis. A rail route that can be done under private-public partnership arrangement without the federal government of Nigeria putting a dot of cover into it. I give you an example. I did a research in 2018. It's one route. Ask any transport company or the transport company. It's one route between Lagos to Port Harcourt every day. The transport owners generate almost about $2 million on a daily basis with all the carnage that is happening on our road. Femi, that road, I did a proposal. The federal government cannot do everything. If the governors of the states through which this road passed can decide today, it's a 780-kilometer road. We want to do a PPP arrangement that can enable us to do that rail infrastructure. I did an example. If you bring a Bayo Ogunlesi, give him 30%. The state governors will take 2.5% and provide the money. All the monies they steal every year through security vote can be enough to fund this.
Exactly.
The federal government will take 2.5%. Femi, you're in diaspora. If we create an SPV that will put in $10 billion annually, Femi, you will bring your 1,000 pounds. And most other guys like Dr. Olufemi. Femi, do you know that if we do this, within 5 years, we will unlock that rail route. Within 10 years, we will do 12-kilometer rail route like we have in the UK. But these governors are lazy. They want Buhari and the Orotimi Amechi to go and borrow money from the World Bank to come and do rail line. We've done these proposals to them. They don't want to do it. Everybody wants to go to Abuja. Tell me, Nigeria is a very poor country. I tell you, even if we produce 4 million barrels of crude oil every day, and we sell all the oil without any expenses, we will not even. Nigeria in 2007, working with the World Bank, developed a global infrastructure master plan on that can help us develop our infrastructure to become of the second world country. It will take us $3 trillion in 30 years. Which simply means we must invest on very consistent basis over $100 billion on annual basis. Femi, these monies cannot come through selling of crude oil. These monies can come only through a private-public partnership arrangement. Annually, diasporans can unlock over $50 billion into Nigeria. If we show them honesty, if we show them transparency. But the governors are very lazy. The governors are only after going to Abuja to share money. If let me tell you, if we have thinking governors in the southwest and southeast, they don't need Abuja to do what they want to do. I'll give you an example of how they can make wealth and everybody will benefit. Nigerians want to eat their cake and have it. From power, Nigeria is the only country that still subsidizes power, yet to one regular power. We subsidize fuel. We want to do the right things. Progress.
Okay, let me bring Adeoye into it, and then we're going to end on this topic. Mr. Adeoye, look, as he says, a country that is supposedly the giant of Africa, the largest economy in Africa by sheer numbers, we still are, even though, you know, things are doing badly, if you like, but we're still the largest economy in Africa. But when you look at it per capita, we're one of the poorest countries in Africa because the numbers of people and share the wealth, we're poor. As he said, even though we're poor, we're still subsidizing electricity, subsidizing petroleum products. Government wants to do everything. Government wants to do everything. It doesn't allow the private sector to thrive. Look, the way forward is beyond just looking at APCP, PDP. I think the leaders as a whole, I've always been of the opinion that good leaders have to take the difficult decisions at the right time. You know, you've got to hit the bull by the horn, take the bull by the horns at the right time, when it's hardest. Not wait and say, oh well, I mean, in the interview Buhari gave the other day, he said, well, if I remove subsidy, they'll come and get rid of him. You understand? I mean, come on. The people will understand if you, as Temitayo said, put the right communication together to explain to people that, look, we are in difficult times now. We don't have any choice, and we're going to put in measures to ameliorate it. What can the populace, the people, what can the government do to galvanize people to understand that, look, subsidies have to go, and that by January 2022, for example, we're going to remove these subsidies, and there's no way out about it. We're going to remove oil subsidies, and we're going to remove electricity subsidies. People are going to pay for what the cost of the product, rather than the government continues to subsidize. Government doesn't have the money. If PDP, if PDP comes in and does the same thing, they'll be in the same problem.
Same problem. I already said that a few minutes ago, that Nigeria, you know, we are not generating enough money to take care of the problems, the enormous problems that we have, in our country. Now, back to the question you asked me. You and I know, as I've said many times, that for Nigeria to begin to kickstart our economy, and for us to be able to see tremendous improvement, we have to understand that this subsidy for petrol products and all that, you know, has to, you know, be out of the equation, you know. But for that to actually be implemented, it has to be a gradual transition. It's not something that you see, because there has to be a proper awareness. You have to let people understand the reasons why you think, you know, the economy, you know, the country needs to bring in the country needs to improve in terms of the revenue they're generating, and with this subsidy in place, you know, that is actually, you know, having a negative impact with the plans that the government have in place to make sure that they kickstart the economy. And back to what you said earlier, an average Nigerian believes that everything has to be done for them. You know, we believe that the government should be in a position to take care of all our needs. You know, and that beggars, I believe, why, you know, some people think, you know, it's imperative that you know, when it comes to the issue of tax, you know, it's inconsequential. You know, they don't have to, forgetting that, you know, them paying their taxes is part of the resources that the government need to be able to take care of this needs. Now, I honestly think for the average Nigerian to begin to understand the ramifications of not removing these subsidies is going to take a long time. It's going to be a gradual transition. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. But I think that, you know, the federal government needs to address these issues, you know, in the right channel, with the right personnel in position to, most especially, you know, at grassroots level and at state level. You know, then when all these things are being implemented from, and that's what I keep saying, that, you know, educating people at grassroots level, you know, devolution of power is very, very important. I keep saying it. From there, you know, everything will transcend to the state. Then from the state, it will go to the federal. You see, because Nigeria is a country that we are not generating enough funds to take care of the infrastructure that needs to be taken care of. And you know, subsidy is one thing that is draining our resources, but it's not something that we can remove overnight. I mean, you know, let's be told, it has to be a process. It has to be a process that will be gradual, with a definitive plan, and within a reasonable time frame. Within a reasonable time frame, with a definitive plan, then they can gradually begin to systematically induce it into the system. Then people will become used, and they will begin to adjust to this new program before the subsidy can be taken off. But it's not going to be something that's good. That has to be done. That will be done overnight. It has to be slowly, gradually, before.
Just for time, we're going to go into the current affairs section, and I'm going to start with you, Obanleo. But I want to buttress your point by saying that government has actually started doing the removal of subsidies right from the onset of this tenure. So it has been 6 years now. So if that's not a slow progress, but where I agree with you is that government should have put a definitive plan with a deadline for when it was going to come out. They were just saying that we're going to reduce subsidies. They didn't give any definite time period, and because oil prices was falling, that meant that reducing subsidies wasn't really having that much of an impact on government because prices were low, so subsidies were minimal. But then once prices start to skyrocket as they are now, the decision that they should have made then, when prices were down rock bottom, they're finding it difficult now. So what they should have done is then was say, look, by the end of 2020, we're dispensing with subsidies. So whatever the price is, that is the price. We wouldn't be in the problem that we're in now. So anyway, moving on to our current affairs section, we're going to do this for the next 15 minutes and get out. So I want to thank everybody for the contributions for the economy. We couldn't answer all the questions, and obviously we'll come back on the economy because this is a big topic that many people want to discuss, especially with the plight of Nigerians. So now I'm going to start with you, Deacon Adeoye, and this is on current affairs. So at last, our clone president and double from Sudan, Yusuf Abubakar, as some Nigerians have alleged, spoke to Nigerians twice last week in an exclusive interviews. No matter what you thought of the interview, is it not a great thing that President Buhari is finally speaking to the nation directly and not through his aides? Clearly, he's not senile. We need Buhari to speak more to the nation. What say you, Deacon?
You see, I mean, the gentleman who is based here in the United Kingdom, the IPOB leader, was the one who actually initiated all this crap going on about the president being cloned and all that. But it's only somebody who, you know, is not in the right frame of mind that would, you know, stoop so low to begin to have those kind of insinuations. But as far as I'm concerned, I think, you know, I can understand that maybe, you know, there are certain things which the president needs to be doing in order to make sure that he reassures Nigerians that he is still the commander-in-chief. One thing is for you to be the president of a country. Another thing is for you to be in power. But in the last few years, he has just, you know, given us the impression that he's just in office but not in power. He needs to show more that he's in power but not in office. And him coming out to address to allay the fears of Nigerians will be the right step in the right direction. Well, in respect of the cloning issue, I think anybody can say whatever they want to say. I don't think that is a very sensible argument. I think there are misgivings. There's been a lot of issues with our country, and the fact that he's kept mute and he hasn't actually said much, leaving everything into the dedicated care of his spokesperson, whatever, Femi. I can't remember his last name. Is it Femi?
Femi Adesina.
Femi Adesina.
And Femi Adesina.
And Garba Shehu.
And Garba Shehu. Those two men have been the most incompetent men that I've ever known in the history of Nigeria. And while they should be doing much to make sure that they come out and speak regarding these issues that has plagued our country for so long, they haven't been doing much. Rather, they expose their boss, they expose his fragilities, and they expose the fact that maybe due to some ill health issues that he's had over the last few years, that could have taken a detrimental effect. Okay. That could have had an effect on his health. So, but I hope that in the not too distant future, we'll be able to see much of him before he finally bows out of office.
Okay, fantastic. I want everybody to be sharp with their questions now because we're in the final furlongs now. So this next question is going to go to Temitayo. In the interview, as we know, Buhari said that NSAS were out to get him out of government. Many have poured scorn on that statement. It's not true that NSAS protest was hijacked by those whose aim was to get rid of him. And you know that NANS cancelled their June 12 Democracy Day protest because of being hijacked by the Buhari must go protesters. So there seems to be some truth in that, isn't it? These people that are doing all this protesting, though, shouldn't they be better looking to find the new presidential candidate for 2023 rather than these protests, which are not going to amount to anything?
Okay, so one of the things that the Buhari government seem to have forgotten is that Nigeria, as in the Nigerian state, has enemies, and these enemies are alive and well. And given the slightest opportunity, they will take any opportunity to get to attack the Nigerian state. And believe it or not, if the enemies of Nigeria, give or take, would tend to attack, the seat of government of Nigeria. Now, if we now set that aside, and then you now talk about protests, the right to protest is supposed to be free in a democratic environment. NSAS, nobody can deny that NSAS was eventually attacked. By whom? I have no idea. But I honestly know that the young people of Nigeria who set out to protest NSAS did not set out to go out and destroy properties. In fact, I was caught in Nigeria when the protests first started. This was around the time when they were they would put out drum and dance on the road, and they would pray, and they would have church services. This was before he was then attacked by hoodlums who went out burning properties, both government and private. You cannot tell me that those were from the young people who had the mind that because they wanted to change something. Because if you think about it, really, the idea of protest to get the government to change its mind and to make policies that would make the lives of Nigerians better is not new. Nigerians have been protesting since God. I mean, I grew up seeing protests, anyways. So I wouldn't say that NSAS was created as a protest movement to unseat Buhari. In fact, I think Buhari's incessant need to not communicate was what then ended up turning NSAS into what it was. If you recall, remember how many days people were going on about how they just wanted the president to come out and address the Nigerian nation, and the whole time he did not. Everybody from the presidency to all the powers that be just ignored it. And in fact, believe it or not, I used to be quite ambivalent about Governor Jide Sanwo-Olu. It was the time that I actually began to respect and adore and admire him. It was a tough job, but Governor Jide Sanwo-Olu actually came out to address these young people, not once, not twice. In fact, I was following his Twitter handle the whole time. He was addressing them on Twitter. He was addressing them over TV. He was outside actually addressing them one-to-one, even though he was getting a torrent of abuse. That's what a leader does. Being present in the middle of a crisis. Buhari was nowhere to be found. And eventually when he showed up, it was what? A 15-minute broadcast where nobody could ask questions, none of that. So I don't know. I don't know why he would say that. And I don't believe there's any truth to it. But like I said, protest movements is not new in Nigeria. And protest movements being hijacked in Nigeria is not new. So I'm very sorry today. I disagree with the president on that. And I believe it's a cheap shot.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Dr. Karanwi. President Mohammed, the father of the nation, has again chastised our youth. This time, not that they were lazy, but that they should behave themselves if they want investors to come and invest in Nigeria. There's some truth to that statement, isn't there? Nigerian youth should stop being lazy and be more resourceful, get educated, learn a trade or profession, and be trustworthy. Stop engaging in criminality, as these are the best ways to encourage investment that will lead to jobs. Is that not the case?
Yes, it is the case. But the thing is this, is our education fit for purpose? We should ask ourselves. Now, our education, the education system in Nigeria is also to make you an employee, to teach you how to write an employment letter. And that's what the education system is about. So we need to look beyond that. Yes, he has a point in that we need to behave ourselves. Well, are the youth supposed to behave ourselves? We need to behave ourselves from the top. What about sex for scandal? Sex for marks for scandals? They're there. Privatization of universities, where lecturers just sell handouts. So are we producing youths who are entrepreneurs? Those who are entrepreneurs, how are we supporting them? Those who are we building business? Are we giving them opportunity to build businesses? Are we providing system that where we will provide, like Tintel said in there, like Dr. Newink said in there. What is our grassroots system about? Everybody is about federal government. The problem is with we are our own problem. Let me say something. We are our own problem. We are the one that we are problems. So most of us are shouting federal government, but we are saying federal Republic of Nigeria. But we are our thinking is unity government.
Let me stop you there because of time. I want to bring Dr. Inamaka back in. Doctor, President Buhari appears to be defending the right for Hausa Fulani herdsmen to persist with open grazing in the south, stating there were established grazing routes which must be maintained and enforced. Although these gazetted routes have been found to be exclusively to the north, isn't this terrible in 2021 when we have population demographics have changed considerably, and most of these herders farmer crisis are to do with the murderous criminality of trespassing on farmers' private property? This is clearly indefensible, isn't it?
Femi, we still go back to Buhari and the Abuja. Let me tell you, Femi, the worst thing we have in Nigeria today, especially in the south, are the governors. Femi, by the reason of the Land Use Act, the governors have control of every inch of the land in Nigeria. Buhari does not have any inch of the land. The constitution is very clear. As nebulous, as silly as the I am not a believer in that constitution, but that constitution gives right to the land to the governors. Femi, is very simple. You don't blame the cowardice and stupidity of the governors on Buhari. If my state governor, I'm from Imo State, if my state governor will say today, I am banning open grazing, and he gets the state assembly to ban open grazing by law, and he institutes an agency to enforce it. I have written a proposal on this. An agency in my state, we have 654 autonomous communities. Put in place 20 youths in every of the communities, uniform youths to enforce it. Buhari cannot come to Imo State and say they cannot enforce it because the Land Use Act gives them that power. But do you know why most of them will not do it? They are criminals. They have looted money. They have compromised. If they do it, Buhari will send EFCC after them. Therefore, before they will cough, they will look at Buhari. Before they will sing, they will look at Buhari.
You don't take up another way.
The Land Use Act. If the governors, Buhari said it to them now, he passed the ball to them. That if they believe that the
oh, we lost the doctor. Where you got cut off. It's not me. Go on, doctor.
Somebody controlling the army and police. Femi, it is not true. These governors are lazy. They are incompetent. They are compromised. And before they will cough, how I wish I'm a governor.
Amen. We will back you. We'll back you, doctor. Let me get
doctor, you should contest now. You have the right to contest.
Contest. We'll back you.
I contested and they rigged this house.
Okay, they rigged you out. I'm
keep trying.
Keep trying. Let me bring the question back to you, Temitaya. Look, more kidnappings in Kebbi and in Ogun State. 4 Chinese workers on Lagos to Ibadan railway lines were kidnapped. They're killing their police security guard. This is yet more proof that we as a nation are the ones shooting ourselves in the foot by discouraging foreign investors, isn't it?
You know what? I'm going to disagree with you there.
Go on.
Okay. So usually if you follow crisis management, you kind of have a crisis. And then you start to kind of develop solutions to resolve that crisis. And at the moment you start to kind of, your solutions begin to work, you then see something that would appear like it's getting worse before it gets better. I think the events today kind of speaks to that rather than things getting worse. Have you noticed how since Buhari spoke last week, twice for that matter, we seem to have some kind of calm to begin with. Then you have some kidnappings, and right immediately after that, there was a footage of Nigerian soldiers having accosted and arrested some bandits in, was it Jauru or Jairi?
In Kebbi State.
Then you got that. So the bandits now know the game is about to be up.
Over.
So they've now changed tactic. So this is a scare tactic to kind of make you think your situation is getting worse. But actually, it's about to get a lot better. And in this respect, I have a lot of credit, a lot of respect, and my gratitude goes out to the Nigerian military forces for the amounts of tremendous work that they've been doing, even though it doesn't look like we necessarily appreciate it. So in my opinion, going out to kidnap 4 expatriates on a railway is changing tactic, knowing that the game is up to scare us. I would just want the government to continue to do whatever they're doing. The game is about to be up, and where I honestly believe and hope that we're going to be seeing less and less of that. So that's my opinion on that.
Okay, good. Let me get Mr. Obanleo, or Deacon Obanleo, sorry. President Buhari said that it's likely that ABC will continue to rule after his departure in 2023. Was that a slip of the tongue or just a genuine desire, considering the brouhaha over Buhari's resubmission of his aide, Onochia, as INEC Commissioner for Senate confirmation? What do you think?
He must have his reasons before he made that statement. Remember what I said earlier, Femi. I don't think Nigeria. I've served this party, PDP, for a good 23 years in various capacities. But the party that I joined then is not the party that I know now. And I cannot, convincingly say to this panel and to all Nigerians watching that, that cannot be the case. 2023 is only 2 years around the corner, and there is no visible sign. There's no clear indication that PDP, as a party, as a serious party, that we have any credible candidates who is aspiring, that we know is a credible candidate that can, contest with whoever they want to present for APC in 2023.
Okay. Just as a follow-up on that one, let me just ask you this one quickly, because I'm going to go to Doctor. Is that President Muhammad Buhari also stated that someone cannot just sit in Lagos and determine how APC will zone the presidency in 2023. Is this a reference to Tinubu, the Jagaban, his aide? Hold on, his aide also referred to a dynasty succession.
I personally don't want to mention names, but you see, if he wants to rubbish Bola Tinubu, for his personal ambitions, that's their own prerogative. I'm less concerned about Tinubu's ambition, because I've said it all along that he is not the best Yoruba man to lead us into 2023 anyway. So whether APC chooses to present him as their candidate in 2023 is a matter of choice. But I'm more concerned about the caliber of candidates that we have for 2023. That's my main concern, and it's worrisome that 2 years before a general election, most especially put it into perspective and put it into consideration the magnitude of the enormous problems that we are facing in Nigeria. PDP, we are still found wanting. And as I said earlier,
just because of time, we're already over time. But I want to give Dr. Olufemi his last question. Doctor, I don't know if you've seen the viral video of an Oduduwa Republic event where the main feature was spraying of dollars on a Oduduwa Republic guy. Did you see that video? I was also recently invited to a similar rally for Oduduwa Republic in Trafalgar Square, London, which was once the slave trade capital of the world. This is obviously the most befitting location for such a rally. What do you think?
It's a pity that it has become a movement of jokers. I've always said it before. Yeah, the thing is this: tell me one tangible, electable person involved in this Oduduwa thing. It's a committee of jokers. The thing is this: my take to them is this. First, there's something they send around. Oh, one country was together.
I don't want to spend too long.
Let me just quickly say this. The thing is this: let them go and do what Nigeria Farage did. Contest election on the platform that you want to go to Oduduwa Nation. Go there, go to the panel, and go and fight a case. You are not elected. You cannot win a local government election. You want to say you want to take Yoruba Nation. Who's going to lead us? A tout that cannot read the constitution. Please, for God's sake, stop insulting me. I'm a Yoruba man. Stop insulting me. Please, stop insulting me.
I had a last question for Doctor, but he's not here, so we can't have that question. I would have loved to give that to him, but maybe I give it to you, Temitaya. Now, there was a protest.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
Okay, good. Doctor, are you back? Good. This question's for you. I'm glad that you've come back. I'm sure you'll like this one. So look, he's talking about what the Oduduwa Republic is doing, and it's a joke. So to bolster this point again further, there was a Nigerian Igbo staged Nigerian Igbos, as it were, a group of them, staged a protest outside the British High Commission in Nigeria for harboring a dual British citizen in Nnamdi Kanu, a wanted fugitive and head of the proscribed terrorist organizers, IPOM, who was issuing out threats and ordering attacks on fellow Nigerians. Of course, you know why Twitter was disbanded or suspended, as it were. What do you say to this? Is it true that the UK are harboring a fugitive, and what they're doing is affecting the national security of Nigeria? This is something that the British would never accept for someone if it was their citizen in Nigeria.
Femi, to be honest with you, if the governments in Nigeria across the 3 tiers are doing what they are supposed to do, there will be no Nnamdi Kanu or Sunday Igboho. That's the truth. If we have governments at all the levels of governance in Nigeria doing what they are supposed to do, there will not have been any space for an Nnamdi Kanu or a Sunday Igboho or any of those agitators to have emerged. What you see pulling Nigeria on all sides is our inability to do the right thing. I was listening to one of the renowned Yoruba lawyers who was part of the 1979 and 1999 arrangement. The guy said, if you look at the 1979 Constitution, Justice Nikitobi panel brought in 12 items that were supposed to have been part of that Constitution. The military boys threw it away. That was why Obafemi Awolowo, after that election against Shagari, challenged it, because that Nikitobi panel, constitutional conference, allowed us to have a collegiate arrangement that we have in the US. But the military guys did not show us the Constitution until after Shagari was sworn in. Femi, to be honest with you, Nigeria is better off together if we are honest to ourselves. The only man who understood this country, is Obafemi Awolowo. If we be honest to ourselves and go back to that 1963-1960 constitutional arrangement, where the regions grew at their own paces. Just take example what happened today. England plays Scotland in Euro 2020-21. England and Scotland belong to one country, United Kingdom, Britain, where you live. Yet they have an arrangement that allows them to have their own identities. Between 1960 to 1966, we had an arrangement that worked for us. We had a very strong constituent units that donated power to the center. That was why Ahmadu Bello, despite the fact that NNPC won the election, allowed Tafa Balewa to go to Lagos to be prime minister, while he controlled the north. I tell you the truth, if we adopt that arrangement we had in 1960, 1963, this country will be better off. There will be no need for a Sunday Igboho or Nnamdi Kanu. And let me tell you the truth. I say it with every sense of responsibility.
The last word,
if
please.
we go back to our foundational arrangement that Ahmadu Bello, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Nahoro, and Obafemi Awolowo agreed to, even under the 6 regional structure, Femi, I tell you, in 10 years, this country will be number 5 in terms of the biggest economy of the whole world. That is the truth.
Okay, fantastic.
Why we have Nnamdi and Sunday?
Doctor,
is because the governors are not doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay,
if the governors
Doctor, let's stop now because of time. Doctor, just for time. We'll continue next time. But let me end by saying, Kenneth, you talked about visionary leaders and the type of leaders that we want and we need. Kenneth Kaunda, the father of modern Zambia and real freedom fighter who fought for Zambia's independence, passed away today. And we want to, our thoughts are out to him, and we wish him to, all condolences. He was a truly celebrated African leader, just like Goodluck Kabele Johnson, who left office having lost election. A true Democrat.
Yeah.
May we have a true visionary leader like Kaduna in 2023. So on that note, I want to thank you for joining us on tonight's show. Enough is enough. Esorosoke, please make sure, Esorosoke, don't be shy, don't be silent. If you see something, say something. If you can't take it no more, do something about it. Niger go better. I believe in one Niger. We all want a better Niger. A big shout out to all our sponsors, Niger Beauty Products and Share My Haven Hair and Beauty Spa and Massage, Therapy and Skincare. And also Masabi B Fashions Yabo as well. So for sponsorship and adverts placements, contact Prime View Television. I'm your host, Mr. Femi Oke, founder of Better Niger, signing out. See you all same time next week when we'll debate another hot topic. Over and out.
Prime View TV. New media with a difference.